Hello, everyone, and welcome to today's SCORE Fairfield County's live webinar on Jumpstart Your Startup. I'm Bob Hogan, the webinar coordinator and a business mentor here at SCORE Fairfield County, and I'll be your host today. Our presenter today is Mike Klehm, and more about Mike Klehm in just a moment, but first some brief information on SCORE. SCORE is a national organization. We have over 11,000 volunteers across the country in 300+ chapters. Right here locally in SCORE Fairfield County, we have over 130 volunteers with a wide range of industry, process, subject matter expertise. And we offer three primary value-added services to small business owners. We offer one-on-one counseling, which can either be face-to-face by telephone, email, or Skype. We offer a wide range of educational workshops and webinars like we're doing today. And we offer extensive resources on our website, including access to a network of subject experts that can be at your disposal. Our next webinar will be 2 weeks from today on Tuesday, May 22nd, when Lorraine Duncan will present using video in social media marketing. And you can find more specifics on that on our website at fairfieldcounty.score.org. We have set aside time for Q&A today at the end of Mike's presentation. But if you have a question, please use the chat feature in the bottom left-hand corner of your screen. And you can submit your questions anytime during the presentation. And actually, Mike is willing to take questions during the presentation if you have some on the slide that he's talking about. We will end our webinar today sharply at 1 o'clock to respect your time. And the session is being recorded, and a link to the recording will be available on the fairfieldcounty.score.org website within the next couple of days. And you'll be not only be able to hear the recording, but also to access the materials that will be on that website. It's now my pleasure to introduce our speaker, Mike Klehm. Mike brings a wide array of business leadership skills from his 30-plus-year career in financial services, during which he held many positions at GM Asset Management Corporation, from portfolio manager to president and COO. Mike is a SCORE business mentor here at SCORE Fairfield County and is currently the vice chair of our chapter. I'll now turn it over to Mike. Mike, all yours.
Thank you, Bob, and good afternoon, everyone. Today I'm going to talk about how to jumpstart your startup business, and I will focus on the keys to starting a business for those that are currently contemplating it or perhaps just starting it today, although I think it may also be helpful for those that are already in business and are looking to find ways to grow your business. So in today's agenda, I'm going to try to cover these 4 items. I'll get a little bit into some myths about what it's like to be an entrepreneur, talk about perhaps some business opportunities that are out there, and importantly, talk about a plan for your startup before I then get into a discussion about our 5-week-long full simple steps for starting your business program. So let's get into some myths or reality about what it's like to be an entrepreneur. Myth number 1, all you need is a good idea to be successful. Well, a good idea is paramount to start your business, but you need much more than that. You need to be willing to work very hard. You need to really understand your market, where your market fits within your overall competitors' landscape, and understand where you want to take your program going forward through good planning and figuring out how you're going to successfully implement that plan of yours. Second myth, don't have to report to a boss. Well, I'm sorry, you're going to have to report to more than one boss, because every one of your clients and customers is going to be your boss, and you need to figure out a way to satisfy every one of their demands. Sometimes those demands are coming in all at the same time, and you're going to have to figure out how to keep all those clients and customers happy. Myth number 3, you get to do just the good stuff. Well, I'm afraid, of course, that's not quite the way it's going to go. You're actually going to have to wear many, many, many hats. While you may love to be in marketing and sales, I'm afraid you're going to have to do much, much more than that. Think about all the hats you're going to have to wear here. Now, you're going to be at the top. You're going to be the CEO. That's great. We all want to be the CEO. But you're also going to have to do all the other stuff here as you start your business until such time as perhaps you've got enough revenue to be able to hire some other people to do your business. But think about all the things you're going to need to do to get your business off the ground. Now, sort of at the middle of this is marketing, sales, and customer service. I'm sure you're going to spend a lot of time figuring out how to sell your product and actually selling your product, or service, and then following up with your customers. But you also need to understand your financials. You have to understand the accounting. If you have employees, you're going to need to understand how to manage the human resource side of it, understand how to manage the technology, facilities if you're renting some space, et cetera. There's a lot of hats you're going to need to wear going forward here. But the biggest myth, the final myth I'll give you here is that, and we've all heard how hard it is to start a new business, and that many new businesses fail, particularly within the first year. As many as 90% fail, according to this myth. But in reality, it's not the case. It's much better than that. According to U.S. government census data, after 5 years, 50% of all businesses that start up are still in business. So while you want to stay away from the left-hand side of the screen, there are many businesses that are successful, and I'll get into today a little bit about what are those keys to success. But before I do, let me first talk about different types of businesses that you may get into in terms of how you'll enter a business. And let me go over 3 primary ways. One is you could start a new business. Secondly, you could buy an existing business. Or third, somewhat of a hybrid approach, is you could franchise a business. You could be a franchisee of an existing franchise such as McDonald's, Dunkin' Donuts, those sort of big ones, or perhaps a much smaller one. So let me get first into, think about it in terms of starting a business. There are pros and cons. Let me first go to the advantages side here. Good thing about starting a new business is it's a clean sheet of paper. You got a greenfield site. You can pretty much do what you want. Let's say, for example, you want to start a coffee shop, focus on selling, let's say, organic food. It's going to offer live music as a way to differentiate yourself from other coffee shops. With a brand new business like this, you can pick your location, pick your name, logo, all sorts of things, and get off and running. Now, the downside of starting that new business on the right-hand side here is that, well, that brand new coffee shop has no customers. So you're going to need to build that customer base from ground zero. And because you have no track record, because you're a new business, you're going to have a little more difficulty getting financing from banks. Not impossible, but it's just going to be a little more difficult to do. The second way to get into business would be to buy an existing business. Let's say you're going to buy a local coffee shop to stay on the same theme there. Well, that local coffee shop has an existing group of customers. It's already got its location set up, which you like, and it has a proven formula in terms of, let's say, menu items and other features of that particular location. And what you can do is buy the business and then focus on ways to improve it, such as, like I said, adding live music or some other way to improve the business to make it even more attractive to customers. And because it's an existing business, it'll be a little bit easier to obtain financing to either buy the business or to improve it going forward. On the other hand, on the right-hand side here, in terms of disadvantages, when you're buying an existing business, you really need to know what you're buying. You need to understand the financial statements. You need to make sure that there are no hidden liabilities, maybe no money owed to somebody, the property, the company isn't a lawsuit situation, whatever it may be, that sort of thing. So you want to make sure you understand all that before you get into a business and buy it, because there could be some hidden traps that you need to be careful about. A third way to get into business would be to franchise a business. Okay, so you could franchise something like a Dunkin' Donuts or a Starbucks. That's probably going to be pretty expensive. Let me suggest another example of Aroma Joe's, which is a much smaller coffee shop franchisor based in Portland, Maine, has about 50 outlets in New England, focused on selling various coffee flavors, a Rush energy drink, and very basic sandwiches. You could basically enter an agreement where they would give you a certain territory, open up your own local Aroma Joe's, and offer your coffee and other products through that outlet. Now, a great thing about that is that Aroma Joe's is already set up with an established marketing program. They can probably give you some financing assistance, and very importantly, probably give you some operational assistance going forward. Particularly if you're new into the coffee shop business, this would be, perhaps an attractive way to get in. Downside of franchising on the right-hand side here would be you're going to have to pay some money up front to buy into the franchise, and you'll incur some ongoing royalty fees. Usually a few percent of revenues will come off the top and be paid to the franchisor, in this case, Aroma Joe's. Also, you'll not have a lot of freedom to change what's on the menu and change some of the other aspects of the franchise, because the franchise has developed a certain brand and wants to maintain that certain brand. And so you won't be able to change the logo and other things like that. You'll need to work within the confines of the Aroma Joe's program, in my example. Often the franchise or will require a 5 to 10 year type commitment. Sometimes you are required to actually expand and open up new locations over a certain period of time, for which, of course, you will need to have some financing. And if for some reason Aroma Joe's has some public relations problems because of things going on at other Aroma Joe's outlets, well, they're going to become your problems, and you're going to have to be able to understand that. So that's a little bit about different types of businesses you may think about in terms of how you're going to start your new business within the business idea that you have. Now, let me talk about some of the keys to being on the right-hand side of that page I showed you before, where 50% of the businesses are successful after 5 years. And we're going to go into each one of these 4 keys to success with your particular startup. And let me start first with, really going to start with you. What are the successful entrepreneur characteristics? And I have several here, and I would suggest that you really treat this as a self-assessment. So take some time and be honest about it, and perhaps even write this down as you think about your own situation to assess yourself whether you're ready to be an entrepreneur and how you can be a better entrepreneur. So first of all, do you have experience in the area you want to operate in? In my coffee shop example, have you worked in a coffee shop? Do you have experience in a coffee shop environment? Another example might be, let's say you want to open up a home health care agency to help elderly clients at home. Well, do you have a background in that area? Are you perhaps a nurse? Or you've been educated as a nurse? You have experience as a nurse? Have you worked in the healthcare agency? Have you been a healthcare nurse for home care? All of these things will help you as you develop a business. If you go into a brand new business here without any experience, you're going to be facing a very uphill fight, because you'll need to learn the business at the same time you're competing against people that are in business and well-versed in the workings of the business. Second thing is planning. We at SCORE can't emphasize enough about proper planning. Before you execute, think about the major steps that you need to take. Is that what your makeup normally is? You normally stop and think and plan things out before you jump into it. I'm going to get into a little later about some of the planning you might think about in terms of your particular business here going forward. Third thing, you may have a work today where you're working 9 to 5 or 40 hours a week, various days of the week. As an entrepreneur, you're going to work a lot more hours than that, a lot more hours. So it's first of all very important that you be willing to work hard. Is that your makeup? You're willing to work hard. And do you really have a passion for what you want to do? If you're going to develop that home health care agency, do you really have a passion for helping people with their health care needs? Passion is so important because you are going to spend a tremendous amount of time working in your particular new business. Time management. I mentioned before about all the hats you need to wear. Well, you need to juggle all those various items that you need to be covering, whether it's doing your marketing, your sales, handling the books, overseeing production if you have some production type issues, whatever it may be. You need to be able to effectively and efficiently manage your time so you can cover all the things that you need to cover as you start to manage your business. Money. A lot of you will need money to start your business. Do you have access to money in some manner or form? Do you have some personal savings you're willing to put towards the venture? Do you have access through some other means that I'll talk about later? And finally, and perhaps most importantly, I mentioned before you'd be spending an awful lot of time on your new business. Do you have a good network of supportive family and friends to be there for you, to understand why you're working so many hours, and to give you advice and to help you out as perhaps you reach some of the tough spots, and, of course, to celebrate with you when you hit some of the high points going forward. Second item I'd like to cover is your business idea itself. Do you have a strong business concept? Let me start with business purpose. Why do you want to be in business? And I suggest also you might think about writing down answers to each one of these 5 or 6 items here as you think about starting your business. So what is the purpose of your business? I imagine a lot of you want to be in business to make money. That's important. You may also have some other non-financial goals. The healthcare agency example I gave you. You have a strong passion for helping people with their health needs. Perhaps you want to set up a charitable organization for a particular mission, perhaps on helping young children or some other particular aspect. So there could be some very important reasons to be in business in addition to being focused on making enough money. And by the way, even if you have a charitable mission as your particular startup, you will need to make enough money to be able to fulfill the needs of the mission. So finance will be an important part going forward. Market need, second item on here. Is there a market need for what you are planning to sell? There needs to be customers out there that want what you have and they want to buy your product. They want to subscribe to your service as opposed to competitors' service. So let's get into the third thing is the basic thing. What are you selling? Write down what are your products or services that you're selling. And to whom are you selling those products or services? Who are your target specific customers? Who are they out there? In the home health care agency, okay, they could be the elderly within a 20-mile, 25-mile radius of your home, as an example. Would be very focused on who you're going to sell to because that'll define how you're going to sell to them. It'll also define who the competition is. Know who they are. Know what they're offering so you know how your product stands up, your service stands up versus what they're doing. And finally, why are your customers going to buy from you as opposed to your competitors? What makes your product, what makes your service unique versus your competitor's product or service? It needs to be unique or they'll continue to buy from the existing supplier, producer, whatever out there. Yours needs to be different, it needs to be better in order for them to switch to you. Third item, one example I give you here is Dr. Ann Murphy. Dr. Ann Murphy has set up a local nursery, and Dr. Ann Nursery has a very focused set of products. She sells high-quality ornamental trees, shrubs, and vines. That's it. No flowers, nothing else. Who's she selling them to? Well, she's selling them to very picky gardeners within a local market area. So she's really focused on the high-end market. So she's selling premium products, very focused set of products here, to very discerning gardeners. And what makes her product unique? And this is what she promotes in her business. Okay, she's offering the best plant care guidance because she's has a degree in horticultural science, Dr. Ann Murphy, and so can back up the advice that she gives. She also backs it up by providing a 100% one-year money-back guarantee. So when you think about your business, think about how you might just get off the road here. Start with what products you're selling, to whom you're selling them, and why are they going to buy from you? What makes your particular product or service unique? Planning. Very important item here, and I've broken it down into 3 different sets for you to think about as you start your business. First of all, with respect to marketing, there's two aspects. There's marketing research and it's marketing strategy. Research. In order to best understand how you're going to sell your product in the best manner you market, you need to understand who your customers are, who your competitors are, what's going on in your industry today, and importantly, where the industry is going. Where's the market going? So what are the market trends? In terms of customers, who are they? Who are your target customers? Define who they are. In your coffee shop business, my example, it could be the young professionals living within a 15-mile radius of your coffee shop, which you have conveniently located right next to the train station that they go to every morning. How are you going to find those customers? Okay, you know where they are, but how are you going to reach out to them? We'll talk about that in a minute. And once you find them, how are you going to convince them to buy from you? It comes back to, again, what makes your particular product or service unique, different from your competition, better than your competition. Now, in today's environment, as we all know with social media in particular, it is very easy to get reviews of existing businesses. And people will often trust what they read about a business from another customer on Yelp or whatever it may be, versus what the particular business is saying about themselves. And there's no stronger way to help sell your business than have your customers sell it for you. So how are you going to turn your customers into advocates for you so that they will promote your business? Word of mouth and referral is a very common way for a new business to get off the ground and run. So you want to turn your customers into advocates for you and for your business. So let's talk about now your competitors. Who are they? What are they selling? What are their strengths? What are their weaknesses? So write down for each one of your competitors you've identified what they do well and what they don't do well. Understand what they do well so you know that that's the minimum benchmark that you're going to have to meet. But where they may not do well is your opportunity. In my simple coffee shop example, your competitors may not offer live music. Well, if you do, that's a key way to get people into your particular coffee shop in my example, by promoting that particular aspect of it. Let's say you're only selling organic, locally grown food as a way to differentiate yourself, and your competitors don't do that. You want to emphasize that. So we're going to find out this information about your customers and competitors and the overall industry. Well, the Internet. As we often say, Google it. But be careful what you Google. You want to get information from reputable sources. Having said that, Google is very useful to understand what's going on in terms of trends in the market. You can Google Trends for your particular business and find out a wealth of information about it. Similarly, in the social media landscape, by following that, you can get a very good understanding of what people are saying about what's going on in your industry, what's going on with your competitors, what's going on with you as you start your business. Libraries, fantastic resource of free information. They have paid databases, both online and offline, trade publications. You can get all sorts of things you can get at a library that is available to you. Strongly encourage you to ask your librarian. We do a number of workshops at libraries in 15 towns in southern Fairfield County. The most common thing I hear from librarians is that people don't ask them for information. Librarians will not give you the information you need, but they will show you where you can find it. They will direct you to the right online database, the right offline publication, whatever it may be. They can guide you to help you shorten your search so you can find the information relevant to your particular industry, your competitors, your own business, trends in the market, etc. So I strongly encourage you to go tap your librarian. They'll send you to some of these other things on here. Could be periodicals, government data. I mentioned census data before. Public company reports. The SEC has all sorts of information about public companies. Now, you might think, boy, those are big companies. I'm running a small little coffee shop on the corner here next to the train station. Starbucks has what's called a 10K filing out there, published by the SEC. You can access on the SEC website. I'm not competing against Starbucks. They're huge. How's that going to help me? Well, what you'll see in a number of these SEC-related publications, 10K, 10Q, et cetera, is that Starbucks will be talking about what's going on in the market. So what are the trends in the coffee industry? You may not be competing against Starbucks, but you can learn an awful lot about what's going on in the coffee industry by reading the Starbucks annual report, reading the Starbucks 10K, et cetera. So take advantage of those reports that are out there because they can give you a tremendous amount of information. Trends. What do you find about trends going on in your market? Well, talk to people. If you can, go into one of your competitors' businesses and be a customer. Just learn about what they do, what they do well, what they don't do well, etc. If you're currently in business and you have customers, ask them. Ask them what you're doing well. Ask them what your competitors are doing well. Ask them what they'd like to have you do. Another thing you can do is, if you're operating in a certain market, go visit people in the same business in a different market area. For example, in my simplified coffee shop discussion, and let's say you're working in Lower Fairfield County where I am right now, you could go up to a coffee shop in Hartford or Boston, go down to Philadelphia, visit a bunch of these people and find out what works for them, what doesn't work for them. People love to talk about what they do. And if they don't view you as a competitor, which a coffee shop in Boston will not view you as, then they'll be more than happy to talk about what's working, what's not working in their environment, and you'll be happy to talk to them, and you can trade stories about what works and doesn't work in your market, not only today but on an ongoing basis going forward as your business grows. Finally, suppliers. Suppliers not only work with you but also work with your competitors. So while they won't give you confidential information of what's going on with your competitors, they do know what's going on in the market because they see what many of their customers, such as you, are doing well and maybe not doing well. They can help you with quite a bit of information. Another topic would be surveys, questionnaires, et cetera, to understand what's going on in your market. You can do face-to-face surveys, et cetera. That is a little bit time-consuming. A more efficient way to do it you might think about would be to do an online survey, such as SurveyMonkey. Very easy to do. It's free, and you can get a significant amount of information in a relatively efficient and quick manner by developing your own survey and sending it out to your email distribution list. Social media. Social media is a two-way conversation. So if you look at what's going on, companies have social media sites. They talk about what they want, and people can reply and talk about what they think about various companies. There's all sorts of other things I mentioned before. I mentioned Yelp. There's all sorts of social media sites like that where you can find out a tremendous amount of what's going on in your market, what's going on with your competitors. And finally, don't forget networking. Networking is something that you'll do forever, and you want to keep that up. So join trade organizations in your particular industry. Attend their meetings, talk to people. They often have a tremendous amount of information that's available on an exclusive basis just from members of the trade organization. But there also are more informal networking groups. Just meetup.com itself would have a tremendous number of local networking groups that may be available within your particular area of industry, product focus, service focus, etc. Join groups like that and keep networking basically as much as you can for as long as you can. Okay, we talked about research. Now I'm going to shift over to marketing strategy. Now you have the information that you need, what are you going to do with it? Here's a definition that I would use about marketing strategy. Explanation of the specific actions that you will take over time to achieve your business objectives. So what are you going to do? All right. So how do you differentiate yourself? That's really what marketing strategy comes down to. You want to differentiate yourself from the competition so people will buy from you. as opposed to your competition. And there are three key areas I've listed here that you can think about in terms of ways to differentiate yourself. And you can use one or up to all four. As many as you can, try to do that. And here's what I would think about in your case. We have a concept called unique selling proposition. Okay, so what is it that makes your product or your service unique? What is your unique selling proposition? And as I mentioned on here, it's all about perception. It's only what the customer thinks is unique about your product or service that counts. So how can you do it? What are some examples of how you can make your product or service unique? And I've listed some here. One I have on here is quality. And to some extent, it's not really something that's going to make you unique because quality is basically a minimum standard just to be in business. So everything you do, every product you offer, service you offer must be of high quality. So it really starts and ends with quality. Other ways to differentiate yourself could be through value, for example. Are you offering more value for your money with your particular product or service than your competitor? An example of a value proposition could be you're offering a more durable product than your competitor. Let's say you're in the consulting business. Let's say you're starting out a consulting business. You are competing against, among other people, some of the major consulting firms like a PwC or McKinsey or some of those big guys. Well, one way to differentiate yourself is you could be setting forth that you are the one that's going to work on their particular project. With some of these large consulting firms, the junior people get put on the project and actually do the work. Differentiate yourself by you being the senior person working day to day on their particular project, and frankly, probably for a little less money, enough for what you need to create the right value proposition, but not as much as they need to support all their overhead. Another way to offer value is offer additional benefits. My simplified coffee shop discussion, offer that free live music. So you're offering more value to your customers than that coffee shop down the street that perhaps just has the recorded music. Pricing, another way to differentiate yourself. Some entrepreneurs starting up think that a very effective way to compete on price is to undercut your competition in order to buy your way into the market and build a customer base that way. I would caution you against that. Price and value go hand in hand. So if you are undercutting your competition with lower price, your customers may perceive that to be lower value, not what you want. In addition, while you can cut your price, your competition can also cut their price. And if they've been in business for a long time and have greater financial resources, they could undercut your price for a long period of time and put you out of business. Not where you want to be. So be careful about distinguishing on price. Having said that, if you have a really high-value product, don't be afraid of charging a higher price. Again, higher price sometimes connotes higher value and can reemphasize the higher value nature of your product versus those of your competitor. Final point I would highlight that's listed here is customer service. And this is where I think a small business really can have a one-up on a number of established businesses, particularly if you're just starting out and it's just you. You can get much closer to your customers. You can understand better their needs, and you can offer superior customer service and follow-up with them than perhaps some of the bigger competitors can do. I think it's something you can really use to your advantage. Packaging, I had on a prior screen. I want to give you an example of how you might be able to distinguish yourself in packaging if you are, in fact, offering a product. This is Laughing Cow blue cheese. And if you think about the way this packaging is put together, you see the words light, less fat, 35 calories on here. So this is obviously focused on people that are interested in healthy diets. In addition, you can see that these are in bite-sized, individually wrapped pieces. So they're good for snacking. So who's this product targeted at? How is it trying to differentiate itself versus other snacks? It's targeted at mothers with small children. It's a healthy snack for their children, but it's also a convenient snack. They can open it up and give them one of the foil-wrapped pieces of cheese, and they can have it as an after-school snack. So it's a way to differentiate themselves from other snacks that may be perceived to be less healthy. And by the way, on the value proposition here and on the pricing, per pound, this cheese is actually priced at about the same price as very high-quality brie. So it shows you how the value of packaging and marketing can offer premium pricing to a particular product. So how do you get this done? How do you actually execute some of these marketing strategies that we've talked about? Well, there's a lot that can go into the funnel on the right-hand side, but try to break it down into digital and traditional marketing. So on the digital marketing front, you need a website, first of all. Just to be in the game, you need a website. How many of you have heard about a business, looked up their website, and not found one? I know I have, and I maybe think, well, it must not be a real company. It must not be in business. So you need a website just to be in the game. But you need to have an effective website that has search engine optimization, so you are attracting people to your website who will then see your product or service and buy from you. Social media. There are hundreds and hundreds of social media platforms out there. There's no way an entrepreneur can understand all of them, never mind use all of them. So you want to spend some time to think about how to focus that down. You need to be in the social media game, so to speak, but you want to narrow that down so you don't spend a lot of time on it. We at SCORE, we have a number of workshops as well as webinars available on our website, pre-recorded, that you can see that go into a lot more detail on how to effectively use social media. And I strongly encourage you to take a look at those and develop social media strategy for your own business. But at a minimum, I'd think about if you're selling to consumers, you need to be on Facebook. Facebook is a consumer-oriented platform. So in my coffee shop example, selling to the retail customer, the coffee shop needs to have an effective Facebook page and needs to have active postings and video and pictures posted on that particular Facebook page. If you are the coffee supplier selling to the coffee shops, that's a business-to-business platform, then in that case you want to be on LinkedIn. So it's a little bit different approach. You want to be on LinkedIn and have a strong presence on LinkedIn in that case. So I won't go into all the other social media platforms, or those are two that you might think about. Email campaigns, extremely effective these days. I know we all think we get too many emails. Having said that, email campaigns are, first of all, cheap. You can use platforms such as Constant Contact or MailChimp, and a very cheap method for getting out your word via email, either specialized campaigns or broadcast-type marketing out to your email distribution list. Now, on the traditional marketing side, it's still there. Yes, people do still print things. There are newspapers, there are flyers, there are other sorts of things out there. Don't underestimate the value of using print media. Still can be effective. TV, radio, you may think, oh, that's just for the big guys. That's expensive. Not so. Radio spots are very focused, not that expensive. TV, particular cable TV, can also be extremely focused. You can target very, very tiny geographic areas if that's your right market, and it's not that expensive. And finally, direct mail. It's a junk you receive in your mailbox at home. It's the Valpaks, et cetera. These are also extremely effective. If 3% of the mail is opened, that is a very effective campaign, because it's very cheap to do this, and if just 3% of the people respond, it can be a very, very effective marketing tool.
Mike, we've got a question about Yelp, and I've heard that businesses that pay for placement do better than businesses that use Yelp for free. Do you know if that's correct? And if so, if you get a bad review on Yelp, what would you suggest?
I can't answer the first one there, but on the second one, that one I can't answer. If you get a bad review on Yelp, the very best thing you can do is to respond immediately. Address that immediately. So let's say a client didn't like the coffee I had served them in my hypothetical coffee shop and puts a bad review on Yelp. Well, as we all know, bad reviews are broadcast many, many more times than good reviews. So many more people are going to see that bad review and talk about that bad review. So I suggest you respond immediately in a very friendly manner. For example, you could say, I really apologize that you had a bad experience at my coffee shop. Please come by, ask for me, and I'll be happy to address your situation, and I'll give you a free coupon, whatever it may be. So respond to that immediately. Now, another way to do it, in addition to that, I wouldn't say another, but in addition to that, try to encourage as many good reviews as you can. And I'm not going to get into the pay for placement, but if you have happy customers, please encourage them to give you good reviews on Yelp or other social media platforms. One advantage of that is, besides the fact that you end up with good press, well, that bad review, it keeps getting pushed down lower and lower on the screen, so it's less likely people will see it. Okay, thank you for that question. Let me go on to a second aspect of planning. Now that you figured out what you're going to do with in terms of your marketing strategy, well, now it's time to execute. And just a quick thought about that in terms of how will you actually deliver what you promised to deliver. And think about it in two manners. One is do yourself what you do well, and to the extent that you can afford it, perhaps not right away, but down the road, get others to do things that you don't do well. So execution. Quality, 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 I mentioned before, it has to be top-notch to be in the game. But also, if you are in a business with any technology requirements, I mean, even you're a consultant, you have to make sure that you have the right equipment ready to be available to make client presentations, to produce any sort of graphics, et cetera, you need to produce. If you have a coffee shop, you need to make sure that your coffee shop is up to snuff in terms of facilities, et cetera. Your supplier network. If your supplier fails, you fail. Pay particular close attention to identifying good supplier network and working closely with them. Similarly, on the other side, in terms of selling your product, you may be doing that yourself, probably will be, right out of the chute. And so you need to be on top of that and presenting yourself and your company in the best manner forward. Now, as you move along and you're able to get other people involved, you'll be managing more. An example of that is you may be hiring salespeople down the road to help sell your product. They are you. They're representing you. They're representing your firm out there. So pick those salespeople well. Stay on top of what those salespeople are doing. Don't forget about it. If you're outsourcing accounting, if you're outsourcing any legal work, et cetera, you may not be expert in that area, but you need to oversee what they're doing. Pay close attention to it. And on the accounting side, make sure you do actually look at those financial statements every month. Make sure your accountant teaches you what are the key numbers to do and look at every month and pay attention to those. Okay, third aspect on planning would be on finance matters. First of all, startup. These are some of the things to think about in terms of what type of cash you need, and every business is different. For example, you may not be renting. You may be working out of your home. You don't have to worry about a rent deposit. But you may need to worry about having a license to operate if you're a contractor, let's say, in a particular area. Other things not on here, let's say you've got a product and you want to patent it. Well, you need to make sure you have money to be able to get a patent before you get into business here. On an ongoing basis, other sorts of cash issues. Obviously, you'll have revenues coming in. You don't know what those will be. What you have a better handle on is what's going out the door. Okay, salaries. A salary, for yourself, but also for the people that work for you. And why I say a salary for yourself, you're going to pay you what you can, but you're going to need to live. So you have to make sure you're generating enough revenue to be able to pay yourself something to go forward here. If you're not working out of your home, yes, you'll have a rent expense. You'll definitely have utility expense. A major aspect is going to be marketing. We talked about before, you're going to have marketing expense. Insurance, I didn't talk about insurance so much, but you'll need to look at that in terms of getting insurance to be able to protect your business going forward. I'll talk about how you can get that in a minute. And then you have other types of expenses here going forward. So between the upfront cash and the ongoing cash, before you start your business, sit down and make the best estimate of how much cash you will need before you break even. And you may not think you're going to break even for a year or two. That's not unusual. But determine how much cash you're going to need before you need it. And then based on that, then let's go figure out where you're going to get the cash from. So upper left-hand corner, well, close to home, personal savings. And we get into the third-party lenders here. They're going to look for you to put up some money in order to be in the business. If they have skin in the game, they want you to have skin in the game. Family and friends may be available to give you some money. Please make sure you put that in writing. If you own a home, probably get a home equity line of credit. Very common way of doing it, but we don't recommend credit cards. They're very, very, very expensive. State and local government grants, perhaps, but usually you have to be creating jobs to get those. So more likely on the right-hand side, the banks are more likely after you're establishing a business, but not right away. Micro-lenders, on the other hand, are more likely up front. In the state of Connecticut, we have 2 statewide lenders listed here that are more likely to loan to a startup and also will most likely provide some technical assistance in terms of business advice going forward. Online sources these days, there's plenty of these. There's the lending side in terms of peer-to-peer lenders, as I listed here, that will loan you money. It tends to be money that's available, but also money that's very, very expensive. On the equity side, crowdfunding sites, Kickstarters, and others are available. This is becoming a more common way of sourcing money. Sometimes you can get money in return for giving the people that provide you the money with the first version of your new product or something like that. In other cases, you may give up some equity ownership in your particular company. So that's a brief overview of the funding sources that you may see. Now,
Mike, I'm just while we're on this, we have a question. Does your personal credit affect your chances of obtaining funding for a business? Maybe you just address that while we're on this page.
Yeah, that's an excellent question. The short answer is yes, and why is that? Because if you look at sourcing money from virtually every one of these sources here, banks, micro-lenders, et cetera, they're going to look for, on a new startup, they're going to look for a personal guarantee. Because as your business starts up, they really have not a lot of hard assets to fall back on for collateral for their loan. So they'll be looking for a personal guarantee. And because they're looking for a personal guarantee, they're going to be looking at your particular credit score. And the stronger that credit score is, the more likely you will be able to get credit from a third party. That's a good question. Thank you. Okay. So your plan's all put together, you're ready to go, you get your funding lined up, and you execute. And then as you execute, of course, things change. I mean, you can't forecast the future perfectly. As you measure things, maybe you're selling more widgets than you thought. Maybe you're selling less widgets than you thought you would. If you're selling more than you thought, well, you may need to revise your plan because you may need to buy more inventory in order to be able to sell more widgets, in which case you might need more funding to buy the inventory. On the other hand, maybe you're selling less widgets than you thought. In that case, maybe you need to make some other adjustments, perhaps to your marketing strategy, et cetera. So you revise your plan, and then you start to execute again. And as time goes on, you stay on top of this, and particularly in the first year, you'll probably be revising your plan in some manner or form 3, maybe even 4 times during the first year. It'll settle down after that, but stay on top of what's going on, measure what's happening, and then be willing to adjust. The best entrepreneurs are willing to adjust, to adapt to new surroundings, and execute a revised plan. Okay, so those are the 4 major keys to success that I'd like to talk about. Now, where can you get some advice? Where can you get some help? Starting up a small business is a very lonely affair, but you don't have to go it alone. There are many sources of help out there. In terms of the business side, first of all, SCORE mentors were available. To help you, as Bob mentioned, we offer free one-on-one counseling that's available to anybody for free. It is something that we love to do, so if you're interested in starting a small business, if you have a small business, we are more than happy to help you. There, of course, are many other experienced business parties, perhaps friends and acquaintances of your own that you should tap for business advice that can certainly help you with your particular business. On the more technical side, you may need legal help to get your business going, particularly if you have any contracts that need to be signed. Local attorney can help you there. On the financing side, bookkeeper or accountant can help you. Often a bookkeeper is enough. It's a lot cheaper than an accountant. Insurance, I mentioned before. Depending on the type of business you're in, you may need professional liability insurance. You may need to have auto insurance apply to your business. It could be a number of different types of insurance. Strongly suggest you link up with an insurance broker who can advise you on what types of insurance that you need and help you secure the various types of insurance at the most favorable prices. And then finally, the investors or lenders and others also can give you advice. I mentioned how the micro lenders in Connecticut can give you ongoing advice going forward. One other thing I'd like to talk about is on the advice front is that we offer at SCORE a program called Simple Steps for Starting Your Business. It is a 5-week program. It covers in much, much more detail than I can cover today what we think of all the various aspects of what you need to do to start your business. Our next program is starting on May 22nd at the Darien Library in Darien, Connecticut. And it will cover the various topics you see on the screen here. We have lined up about a dozen different speakers. We have at least 2 speakers a night that cover these various topics. Most of these speakers are today in business and so are expert and up-to-date on current trends going on in the market, whether that be the strategy, social media marketing, finance, etc. So if you are available, happen to live locally, we would love to see you on May 22nd. Please join us for that particular program. We do link that up with a SCORE mentor so that we can get you off the ground and running as quickly as we can during this program. So that's what I have to talk about today. I'd like to cover any remaining questions that we may have. Bob, if you'd like to.
Thanks, Mike. We're now going to use the rest of the time for Q&A, and we'll take as many as we can here up to 1 o'clock. So as a reminder, please submit any questions you have via the chat feature in your lower left-hand side of your screen, and we'll take those. And we do have a question here, Mike, on location. Can you talk about or suggesting how to determine a good location for a new business?
Sure. Well, of course, it's going to start with what is your business. If it's a makeup shop, it's a retail business. Where do your customers hang out? Think about it that way. This might apply to more than just a retail business. So where are your customers physically? If it's a retail business and you're selling clothing, whatever, can you locate near where traffic already is? You may not be able to afford to take a spot in a mall that tends to be more expensive, but maybe you got a spot that's near a mall. Maybe you got a spot that's downtown. My coffee shop example near the train station. Think about where your customers go on a regular basis, whether they're driving there, whether they're walking nearby. To the extent you can find a location where your customers already have, that's a lot easier than setting up what I call a destination location where they would have to be targeted at your particular business in order to want to make the trip to go there.
Thanks, Mike. We have another one on do you have focused content and seminars for e-commerce businesses? That's SCORE. Maybe you could talk about that or whether that's covered in Simple Steps, perhaps.
Yeah, we do cover it briefly in Simple Steps. We have a workshop that we run on how to offer that's entitled How to Run an E-commerce Business. Klehm has run that for us on several occasions, and in fact we're scheduling that now for coming up sometime in the fall. And perhaps we'll even do a webinar on that someday.
Okay, great. Sounds good. Again, if you have a question on today's presentation or anything about starting your business, I'm sure Mike would be glad to talk to that. We do have a couple minutes left here, so yes, and we do have another one coming in, Mike. It's on the upcoming one. It says, for the Darien 5-part series, will any of those be available in webinar form, or are they all exclusively in person? And I guess I'll let you respond to that. But
that's a good question. We offer the Simple Steps program in the workshop format only at the current time. And the reason why we do is we run a very highly interactive program where we run through various exercises. We have participants work with each other on their particular programs and businesses. And we find that it works extremely well in a live workshop setting. It's a great way for people to also network with other people who are also in the same position that entrepreneurs are. A number of people are starting up businesses, and they get to work with other people that are also in the same boat. I've had a couple of my clients, had one in particular who was a client of mine for a year before she finally went to Simple Steps, and her first comment to me was, wow, I've been doing this alone for so long. I'm glad I went to Simple Steps because I got a chance to meet a lot of other people in the same position. So we offer it primarily and only right now as a in-person workshop. There is a version of Simple Steps online at score.org. That's the National SCORE organization. And so that is available for those of you not able to attend our local in-person workshop. I'd much prefer to see you at the local in-person workshop, obviously, but if you're not able to do so, please take a look at the 5-part Simple Steps series that's offered online on score.org.
Yeah, I just also add that on the on-demand webinars on the fairfieldcounty.score website, we have covered in there a number of the topics that are in Simple Steps, for example, like digital marketing, like funding, those kinds of things. You can get information on specific topics from some of the on-demand webinars as well. So if you're looking for something specific, that's another thing to consider. Okay, I think at this point in time we have no other questions. So I just had people inquire again. There will be a recording of this webinar, and the materials will be accessible within the next day or two on our website, fairfieldcounty.score.org, and you just go to on-demand webinars and you'll see them there. Again, a reminder, 2 weeks from today, our next webinar on May 22nd, the topic is using video in social media marketing, and Lorraine Duncan will be our presenter. And so in closing, on behalf of SCORE, I'd like to thank you all for attending our live webinar and remind you to please fill out your evaluations that have been sent to you by email. They're very helpful to us, and so if you could do that, that would be great. In closing, thanks a lot, Mike. Great presentation today, and have a nice day, everyone.